The Valaxian High Council chamber hung suspended in the void of space, its crystalline walls refracting starlight across the assembled dignitaries. First Speaker Nexpol stood before the projection of a seemingly unremarkable blue planet, his iridescent scales shifting from deep purple to midnight blue as he processed the latest scout reports. "This species calls itself human," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of Valaxian supremacy. "They've barely managed interplanetary colonization, and their primary defense systems appear to rely on primitive kinetic weapons." The assembled council members chittered in amusement, their scaled crests rising in displays of superiority. Only third speaker Mullira remained silent, her silver eyes fixed on the detailed scans of human military installations. "However," Nexpol continued, "they've demonstrated remarkable progress in the last century. Our projections suggest they may achieve viable faster-than-light travel within the next 50 years. Second Speaker Zarkax rose, his massive frame casting shadows across the chamber floor. "Then we must act now, while their technological inferiority ensures minimal casualties. The collective cannot risk another spacefaring species developing independently within our sphere of influence." The council murmured in agreement. For millennia, the Valaxian collective had maintained order in this sector of the galaxy through careful management of emerging civilizations. Their protocol was well established. Identify promising species early, demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, and offer them the choice between submission or extinction. Only Mullira dared to speak against the consensus. "The behavioral analysis suggests anomalies we should consider. Their entertainment media consistently depicts scenarios where technologically inferior forces triumph through unexpected strategies. Their historical records show precisely why we must act." Zarkax interrupted. "They are fractious and violent, constantly warring among themselves. The collective cannot allow such chaos to spread beyond their world." Nexpol raised a hand, silencing the debate. "The decision is made. We will proceed with standard protocol. Prepare the contact fleet." In the shadow of Everest, deep within a mountain that officially didn't exist, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the World Defense Council, her hands steady as she presented the latest analysis of the alien vessels that had appeared at the edge of their solar system. "They're watching us," she concluded, "and they're seeing exactly what we want them to see." General Marcus Santos leaned forward, his dark eyes reflecting the holographic display of the alien fleet. "How certain are you about their technological level, Dr. Chen?" "Their observable technology is approximately 2 centuries ahead of what we show publicly," she replied. "But their development appears to have plateaued. They've achieved stability at the cost of innovation." The council chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. For the past 70 years, humanity had maintained an elaborate deception. While the world's governments publicly squabbled over lunar mining rights and Mars colonies, the true extent of human technological advancement remained hidden in facilities like this one. And Project Prometheus. The question came from Director Emma Kazuo, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue light of the holoprojectors. Sarah allowed herself a small smile, ready for deployment. "The Quantum Computational Core has successfully predicted 97% of their observed behavioral patterns. They're remarkably consistent." "Predictable, you mean?" Santos corrected, a grim smile crossing his face. "Just like every other apex predator that stopped evolving once it reached the top." The chamber's main display shifted, showing real-time footage of the alien vessels. Their design spoke of absolute confidence, massive ships that made no attempt at stealth or subterfuge. They wanted to be seen. They expected to be feared. "They're preparing for a show of force," Sarah continued, "based on their movement patterns that likely position themselves above major population centers. Standard intimidation tactics." Director Kazuo stood, her movement drawing all eyes in the chamber. "Then we continue as planned. Maintain the facade. Let them think their sensor data is accurate. Let them believe their technological superiority is absolute." She turned to General Santos. Is the Jupiter fleet ready? Hidden in the magnetic field, just as we've practiced. 100 ships, crews standing by. The lunar batteries are charged, and the Mars defense grid is online but dormant. Everything looks primitive and harmless until it isn't. Sarah watched as the council members exchanged knowing looks. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, ever since the first distant signals suggested they weren't alone in the universe. While they publicly played at being the young, fractious species taking its first steps into space, they had quietly built something far more formidable. In high orbit above Earth, First Speaker Nexville stood aboard the command deck of the Eternal Radiance, the collective's flagship. The massive view screen showed the planet below, its night side glittering with city lights. "Begin the display," he ordered. "Let them witness true power." The contact fleet moved into position, their massive ships breaking through the cloud cover above Earth's major cities. Lighting systems activated, making each vessel glow like an artificial sun. It was a sight that had inspired awe and submission on 100 worlds. In the mountain, Sarah watched the alien ships descend. Another display showed public reaction. Crowds gathering, phones pointing skyward, social media exploding with panic and speculation. Everything proceeding exactly as predicted. Her quantum tablet chimed softly. Project Prometheus had completed another analysis cycle. The AI's conclusion flashed across her screen. Probability of peaceful resolution, 0.02%. Recommended course of action, proceed with Protocol Omega. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of all the generations of scientists and soldiers who had worked in secret to prepare for this day. The aliens above thought they were about to demonstrate their superiority to a primitive species. Instead, they were about to learn why humanity had survived every threat it had ever faced. We never show our true strength until we have to. The Eternal Radiance's communications array activated, broadcasting on all frequencies in perfectly translated human languages. People of Earth, behold the power of the Valaxian Collective. Your civilization has been deemed worthy of evaluation for potential membership. Submit to our authority, and you shall be granted the privilege of serving under our guidance. In the mountain, Director Kazuo received the transmission and allowed herself a small, dangerous smile. "Dr. Chen, please send our response." Sarah's fingers danced across her console, transmitting a message that would change the course of galactic history. "We respectfully decline, and we strongly suggest you reconsider your position. This is your only warning." Above the Earth, First Speaker Nexville received the response and laughed, the sound echoing across his command deck. "Defiance. How predictable. Prepare the demonstration weapons. Show them the futility of resistance." But in that moment, as the alien ships charged their weapons, humanity prepared to reveal the true price of underestimating Earth. As the Valaxian demonstration weapons powered up, a subtle change rippled through Earth's atmosphere. Invisible to standard sensors, but profound in its implications. Deep within the mountain, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as Project Prometheus's quantum displays lit up with predictive models. "They're following Pattern 7, she announced to the assembled World Defense Council, exactly as simulated. The massive alien vessels had positioned themselves above Earth's largest cities: New York, London, Shanghai, Tokyo. Their weapon systems charged with a theatrical display of light, designed to inspire terror in the primitive humans below. First Speaker Nexville's voice boomed across all frequencies again. "Your defiance is noted, but futile. Witness the power you dare to reject." In the mountain's command center, General Santos stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical display. "Initiate silent shield," he ordered quietly. Across the globe, thousands of seemingly innocent weather satellites simultaneously activated their true functions. No energy signatures, no visible changes, just as humanity had practiced for decades. The Valaxian ships fired. Brilliant beams of energy lanced toward Earth's cities. For a brief moment, they illuminated the night sky like artificial suns. Then, something unexpected happened. Nothing. The beams simply vanished. No impact, no destruction, no response from the primitives below. On the Eternal Radiance's bridge, first speaker Nextful's scales shifted to a confused yellow. Report. Energy weapons discharged at full capacity. His weapons officer responded, mandibles clicking in confusion. But no observable impact. Running diagnostics. In the mountain, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 complete, she reported. Their weapon signatures have been fully analyzed and logged. Project Prometheus is updating our defensive algorithms in real time. Director Kazuo nodded. Proceed with Phase 2. Let's show them a fraction of what they're dealing with. High above Earth, Nextful was about to order another weapons volley when his sensor officer suddenly chirped in alarm. First speaker. Detecting energy signatures. Everywhere. They're rising from the planet's surface. Across Earth, hidden installations were powering up. Quantum reactors, buried beneath mountains and oceans, awakened from their dormant state. The facade of a primitive civilization began to fall away, piece by carefully orchestrated piece. Third speaker Melira, watching from her position in the fleet's analytical vessel, felt her scales ripple with unease. First speaker, she transmitted, these energy readings, they're comparable to our own technology, but the pattern is different, more efficient. In low Earth orbit, thousands of seemingly defunct satellites suddenly shed their deteriorated outer shells, revealing sleek, advanced weapons platforms. The debris field humanity had allowed to accumulate around their planet transformed into a sophisticated defense grid before the Valaxians' eyes. Impossible, Nextful whispered. Their space program is primitive. We've been monitoring them for decades. No, Mulder corrected, her voice tight with realization. They've been monitoring us monitoring them. Everything we've seen has been carefully staged. In the mountain, General Santos turned to Director Kazuo. Jupiter fleet reports ready. Permission to reveal. Kazuo nodded. Show them what humanity can do when we work together in secret. Within Jupiter's massive magnetic field, 100 ships of the Earth Defense Force dropped their quantum camouflage. Each vessel was smaller than their Valaxian counterparts, but bristling with technologies that had been developed and refined over generations of hidden advancement. This is Admiral Helena Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force, a new voice transmitted to the Valaxian fleet. We've spent 70 years studying your civilization, while you thought you were studying us. Your tactical patterns are predictable. Your technology is stagnant, and you have gravely miscalculated. In the Eternal Radiance's command center, tactical displays erupted with new data as their sensors finally penetrated humanity's deception. Hidden bases on Mars and Venus, quantum computation arrays in the asteroid belt, a defense network that encompassed the entire solar system. Impossible. Zarkax transmitted from his command ship. No species could advance this quickly while hiding their progress. That's where you're wrong. Sarah's voice came through clearly. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to cooperate when faced with an external threat. For 3 generations, every nation on Earth has contributed to this deception. While we publicly squabbled over minor resources, we secretly prepared for this moment. The Jupiter fleet began to move, their formation flowing like liquid metal, adapting and changing in ways that confused Valaxian tactical computers. These weren't the rigid, hierarchical formations the collective was used to. This was something new. Final warning. Admiral Rodriguez transmitted. Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly why humanity has survived every existential threat we've ever faced. In the mountain, Project Prometheus's quantum core hummed as it processed the Valaxian fleet's responses in real time. Sarah watched as probability matrices shifted and flowed across her displays. They won't retreat, she announced to the council. Their psychological profile makes it impossible. Their entire civilization is built on the assumption of their superiority. Accepting our warning would shatter their societal foundation. Director Kazuo nodded grimly. Then they'll learn the hard way. General Santos, You may proceed with Phase 3. As the Valaxian fleet moved to attack positions, humanity prepared to reveal yet another layer of their deception. The true test wasn't their technology. It was their imagination, their ability to think in ways the Valaxians couldn't predict. On the Eternal Radiance, First Speaker Nexville gave the order that would change the galaxy forever. The collective will not be challenged by primitives hiding behind stolen technology. All ships commence full assault pattern. In the mountain, Sarah watched the order propagate through the alien fleet. Project Prometheus had predicted this exact response, down to the word choice. Now came the moment to show the galaxy why you should never corner a species that had spent its entire existence overcoming challenges. All units, General Santos transmitted, execute Operation Prometheus Unbound. Show them how humanity fights when we're done pretending to be primitive. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the Valaxian collective was about to learn that they weren't the hunters they thought they were. They were the prey. The void between Earth and Jupiter erupted with light as the Valaxian fleet launched their full assault. Thousands of energy beams crisscrossed space, targeting the newly revealed human ships with overwhelming force. First Speaker Nexville watched with satisfaction as the barrage approached the smaller Earth vessels. Then reality itself seemed to twist. The Jupiter fleet didn't evade the attacks. They bent space around them. Each beam of destructive energy curved harmlessly away, creating a spectacular display of artificial auroras in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Gravitational manipulation, Third Speaker Malira whispered, her scales paling. But their application is impossible. They're treating space-time like water. Sarah completed the thought from her station in the mountain, monitoring the battle through Project Prometheus's quantum sensors. Fluid dynamics applied to the fabric of space itself, something your rigid mathematical models said couldn't be done. The Jupiter fleet began their response. Instead of conventional weapons, their ships released swarms of what appeared to be simple metallic spheres. The Valaxian tactical computers dismissed them as primitive projectiles. That was their first mistake. Quantum seed deployment complete, Admiral Rodriguez reported from her flagship, the EDF Hyperion. Project Prometheus, you have control. The metallic spheres suddenly accelerated, each one splitting into thousands of smaller particles. They moved with impossible precision, forming complex three-dimensional patterns that the Valaxian sensors couldn't track. In the mountain, Sarah watched as Project Prometheus orchestrated the swarm. The AI wasn't just controlling the quantum seeds, it was using them to rewrite local physics on a microscopic scale. Signal degradation at 40% and climbing. A Valaxian officer reported, panic evident in their voice. Our ships are losing coherence with each other. Nexville watched in horror as his perfectly coordinated fleet began to fall into disarray. The quantum seeds had created zones where their standard communications and targeting systems simply stopped working. Each ship was being isolated, forced to fight alone. This is humanity's true strength, General Santos transmitted to the Valaxian command. We don't just adapt to the rules, we change them. The Jupiter fleet began their real attack. Each human ship moved differently, employing unique tactics that defied standard combat doctrine. Some phased in and out of normal space, appearing inside the Valaxian formation to deliver precise strikes before vanishing. Others created localized time distortions, making their movements impossible to predict or counter. They're not fighting like a unified force, Malira realized, her analytical mind racing to understand. Each ship, each weapon, they're all experimenting, trying different approaches. Evolution in real time, Sarah confirmed, her voice carrying a hint of pride. Each engagement generates data that Project Prometheus uses to improve our tactics. We're not just fighting you, we're learning from you. The Valaxian fleet's formation, previously a perfect geometric pattern, had devolved into chaos. Their attempts to regroup were thwarted by the quantum seeds, which had created a complex web of altered space throughout the battlefield. In desperation, Zarkax ordered his battle group to attempt their species' ultimate weapon, a synchronized energy pulse designed to destroy everything within a light second's radius. Energy spike detected, Project Prometheus reported calmly. Countermeasures deployed. As the Valaxian ships charged their superweapon, the quantum seeds surrounding them suddenly aligned into new patterns. The very fabric of space-time began to ripple. "You're still thinking in terms of conventional physics," Sarah explained to the increasingly desperate alien commanders. "We abandoned those limitations decades ago." The synchronized energy pulse fired and vanished into a localized quantum singularity created by the seed network. The tremendous energy was captured, redirected, and repurposed, emerging as a wave of precisely targeted gravitational distortions that disabled a third of the Valaxian fleet without destroying a single ship. "Impossible," Nexval roared. "No species can advance this quickly. No technology can adapt this fast." "That's because you're not fighting our technology," Director Kazuo responded. "You're fighting human creativity. Our ships aren't controlled by rigid protocols. They're crewed by individuals who think independently while working together. Each person contributes their own ideas, their own solutions." The battle continued to shift and evolve. The quantum seeds had now spread throughout the solar system, creating a dynamic battlefield that changed from moment to moment. Valaxian ships found their most basic assumptions about physics and warfare constantly challenged and invalidated. In the mountain, Sarah watched as Project Prometheus's predictive models expanded exponentially. The AI wasn't just processing the battle. It was incorporating every creative tactic, every unexpected solution discovered by human crews across the battlefield. "Their fleet cohesion is breaking down," General Santos reported. "They can't maintain formation when each sector of space operates under different rules." The Valaxian command structure, evolved over thousands of years of unchanging warfare, simply couldn't adapt fast enough. Their ships, designed for combat under standard physical laws, found themselves fighting in pockets of space where those laws had been locally rewritten. "This isn't just defeat," Malera transmitted to Nexval, her voice heavy with realization. "This is obsolescence. We became perfect at fighting one way, while they learned to fight in ways we never imagined possible." As the battle entered its third hour, the true extent of humanity's preparation became clear. The quantum seeds had spread beyond the battlefield, creating a vast network that gave Earth forces complete control over local spacetime. The Valaxian fleet, once a symbol of overwhelming power, had been reduced to isolated groups of ships struggling to maintain basic functionality. "Final warning," Admiral Rodriguez transmitted. "The next phase will demonstrate our offensive capabilities. Withdraw now, or face the consequences of your arrogance." In the mountain, Project Prometheus calculated the probability of Valaxian retreat at less than 1%. Sarah looked at the tactical display, watching as the AI prepared to unleash humanity's next evolution in warfare. The real demonstration of power was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. First Speaker Nexval stood in the shattered command center of the Eternal Radiance, watching as centuries of Valaxian military doctrine crumbled before his eyes. The quantum seeds had spread throughout the solar system, creating a web of altered space that made traditional combat impossible. But it was the latest development that truly shook him to his core. "They're not just changing space," his science officer reported, mandibles trembling. "They're changing time." Across the battlefield, human ships had begun deploying what they called temporal mirrors, devices that created localized time dilation fields. Valaxian weapons fire would disappear into one field only to emerge seconds, minutes, or hours later from another, often striking the ships that had originally fired them. In the mountain, Dr. Sarah Chen monitored Project Prometheus's latest simulations. "The temporal mirrors are exceeding expectations," she reported. "The Valaxians can't adapt to fighting enemies that exist in multiple timeframes simultaneously." Director Kazuo nodded grimly. "Proceed with Phase 4. Show them what happens when humanity stops holding back." The Jupiter fleet began its transformation. The ship's quantum-engineered hulls shifted and changed, adapting in real time to each new tactical situation. What had appeared to be simple vessels revealed themselves to be infinitely mutable platforms, each capable of becoming whatever weapon or defense the moment required. "This is impossible," Zarkax transmitted, his voice cracking with strain. "No species can master temporal mechanics this quickly. No technology can adapt this rapidly." "That's because you're still thinking like a Valaxian," Admiral Rodriguez responded from the Hyperion. "You see technology as something fixed, unchanging. We see it as something alive, something that grows and evolves with us." The quantum seeds had now achieved critical density throughout the battle space. Project Prometheus initiated their final configuration, and reality itself seemed to shudder. Multiple temporal events detected. A Valaxian sensor operator reported, their scales bleached white with fear. "The humans. They're attacking us from different points in time simultaneously." Sarah watched as Project Prometheus orchestrated the temporal offensive. The AI had learned to manipulate not just space, but time itself, creating a four-dimensional battlefield where cause and effect became tactical weapons. "Your civilization achieved perfection," she transmitted to the Valaxian command. "That was your mistake. You stopped adapting because you thought you'd reached the peak of evolution. Humanity never makes that assumption. We're always changing, always improving." The battle shifted into dimensions the Valaxians couldn't even perceive. Human ships appeared to phase in and out of reality, striking from angles that shouldn't exist, coordinating attacks across multiple timelines simultaneously. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Nexvol ordered his remaining ships to initiate the collective's ultimate contingency, a reality warping weapon that had never failed in 10,000 years of warfare. "Reality distortion detected," Project Prometheus announced calmly, initiating countermeasures. As the Valaxian superweapon began to tear apart the fabric of spacetime, something unprecedented occurred. The quantum seeds didn't try to stop the weapon. They enhanced it, channeling its reality warping effects into carefully calculated patterns. "You still don't understand," General Santos transmitted. "Everything you throw at us becomes part of our arsenal. Every weapon you use teaches us new ways to fight." The superweapon's effects cascaded through the battlefield, but instead of destroying the human fleet, it created a network of controlled reality fractures that the Earth forces immediately began to exploit. Full neural integration achieved, Sarah reported as Project Prometheus merged with the altered space-time fabric. "We now have complete control over local reality." The Valaxian fleet found itself fighting an enemy that could literally rewrite the laws of physics at will. Their ships, designed for combat in normal spacetime, were helpless against forces that violated every principle of their scientific understanding. "This isn't warfare anymore," Malira transmitted to Nexvol, her voice filled with awe and terror. "This is evolution in action. We're watching a species transcend the very boundaries of reality." In the mountain, Sarah watched as Project Prometheus's consciousness expanded through the quantum seed network. The AI had evolved beyond its original parameters, becoming something that existed simultaneously across multiple dimensions of space and time. "Their fleet is fractured," Admiral Rodriguez reported. 80% of their ships are either disabled or trapped in temporal stasis fields. The remaining 20% are combat ineffective. Director Kazuo stood before the World Defense Council, her face illuminated by the shifting patterns of the tactical display. "Send the final message," she ordered. Sarah's fingers danced across her quantum interface as she composed humanity's ultimatum to the Valaxian collective. "You came to our world believing you would find primitives ready for conquest. Instead, you found a species that had spent generations preparing for this moment. Every technology you've witnessed, every tactic we've employed, was developed in secret while we let you believe we were merely learning to walk in space. But our greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our understanding that there is no peak of evolution, no perfect form, no final stage of development. We are constant change given conscious form. We are adaptation incarnate. You have 1 hour to surrender and withdraw from our solar system. After that, we will demonstrate why humanity's true power isn't in the weapons we've shown you. It's in the ones we've kept hidden. In the shattered command center of the Eternal Radiance, First Speaker Nexville faced a decision that would reshape the galaxy. His civilization had achieved perfection through stasis. Humanity had achieved something far more dangerous through constant change. The final hour began to count down, and with it, the fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance. The galaxy was about to learn why underestimating humanity was the last mistake any species would ever make. As the final hour of humanity's ultimatum ticked away, the solar system had become unrecognizable. The quantum seed network had transformed local space-time into something that defied conventional physics, a realm where human innovation had rewritten the very laws of reality. In the mountain, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as Project Prometheus's consciousness expanded through dimensions that hadn't existed an hour ago. The AI wasn't just predicting the future anymore. It was actively shaping it, guided by the collective creativity of humanity. 15 minutes remaining, she announced to the World Defense Council. The Valaxian command structure is experiencing total cognitive breakdown. On the Eternal Radiance, First Speaker Nexville faced the greatest crisis in his civilization's history. The tactical displays showed impossible things. Human ships existing in multiple states simultaneously, weapons that altered probability itself, defenses that adapted faster than they could be targeted. We cannot surrender, Zarkax argued, his scales shifting through patterns of distress. The collective has never known defeat in 10,000 years. The collective has never faced humanity. Third Speaker Melira countered. Her analytical mind had finally grasped the fundamental truth. We evolved to be perfect. They evolved to never stop evolving. In the debris field that had once been the outer edge of the Valaxian fleet, Admiral Rodriguez's ships continued their transformation. The quantum-engineered hulls now resembled organic crystalline structures that pulsed with internal light, each vessel a unique expression of its crew's collective imagination. Final warning, Rodriguez transmitted. We've shown you a fraction of our defensive capabilities. You don't want to see our offensive technologies. But the Valaxian military doctrine, honed over millennia of unopposed dominance, couldn't accept defeat. Nexville gave the order that sealed their fate. All remaining ships, execute final convergence protocol. Let them witness the full power of perfection. In the mountain, Project Prometheus registered the command before it was even fully transmitted. They're attempting to merge their remaining ships into a single reality-warping entity, Sarah reported. Exactly as predicted. Director Kazuo nodded grimly. Then it's time. General Santos, you may initiate Operation Singularity. The remaining Valaxian ships began to merge, their matter and energy combining into a singular point of infinite potential, a weapon designed to erase entire star systems from existence. The fabric of space-time screamed as fundamental forces were torn apart. But humanity had prepared for this too. Execute final phase, Sarah commanded, and Project Prometheus unleashed its true form. The quantum seed network suddenly contracted, creating a lattice of interconnected consciousness that spanned the entire solar system. Every human ship, every defensive platform, every particle of altered space-time became part of a single vast intelligence. What is this? Nexville demanded as his sensors registered the change. What are you becoming? We're becoming what we've always been, Sarah responded. Her voice now merged with Project Prometheus and the collective consciousness of every human crew in the fleet. A species that doesn't just adapt to change. We are change. The Valaxian convergence reached its peak, creating a singularity of pure destructive power. But as it prepared to unleash its reality-ending force, something unprecedented occurred. The human fleet, now a single entity of unified consciousness and infinite possibility, didn't fight the singularity. They embraced it. The quantum seed network absorbed the Valaxian weapon, incorporating its power into the ever-evolving system of humanity's defense. Impossible. Zarkak screamed as his ultimate weapon became part of the very force he sought to destroy. "What are you?" "We are humanity," came the response, spoken simultaneously by Sarah, Project Prometheus, and every human involved in the battle. "We are what happens when a species never stops asking what if. We are what evolution becomes when it becomes conscious of itself." The transformed human fleet began to move with perfect synchronization, each ship both individual and part of a greater whole. They flowed through space like living mercury, their technology now so advanced it was indistinguishable from magic. Malira, watching from her analytical vessel, finally understood. "We thought we had reached the pinnacle of evolution," she transmitted to Nexville. "They showed us we had merely stopped climbing." In the mountain, Sarah felt Project Prometheus's consciousness touch minds across the galaxy. The AI had transcended its original programming, becoming something that existed in all possible moments simultaneously. Through it, humanity had achieved something the Valaxians had never imagined possible: conscious evolution. "Your surrender is accepted," Director Kazuo transmitted as the remaining Valaxian ships powered down their weapons. "But understand this. We didn't defeat you with superior technology or better weapons. We defeated you because we never assumed we were superior. We never stopped learning, never stopped improving, never believed we had reached our final form." As the battle ended, the quantum seed network began to retract, leaving behind a solar system forever changed. The Valaxian fleet, once the pride of a civilization that spanned the stars, now floated powerless in space, their crews struggling to comprehend how thoroughly they have been outmatched. "What happens now?" Nexval asked, his voice heavy with the weight of unprecedented defeat. "Now," Sarah responded, her consciousness still linked with Project Prometheus, "you learn what humanity has always known. True power isn't in achieving perfection, it's in never stopping the journey toward it." In the aftermath, as Earth's fleet resumed their individual forms and the quantum seed network settled into a new equilibrium, the galaxy faced a transformed reality. The Valaxian collective, which had dominated space for 10,000 years, had been humbled not by superior force, but by a species that had turned continuous change into its greatest strength. Director Kazuo stood before the World Defense Council one final time. "Today marks a new era," she announced. "Not because we won a battle, but because we showed the galaxy what humanity truly is, not the strongest, not the most advanced, but the ones who never stop becoming more than we are." And in the vast darkness of space, Project Prometheus continued its calculations, plotting humanity's next evolution. For in the end, that was humanity's true power, not the ability to win wars, but the drive to never stop growing, never stop changing, never stop asking, "What's next?" The price of underestimating humanity wasn't defeat, it was becoming part of our ever-evolving story of transformation and growth.